So when couples are struggling in their relationship, there's a tendency to focus all their energy on relational awareness. Things like, do we understand our partner's needs, better communication, better conflict resolution, and all those things are good and helpful. But if you or your partner lacks self-awareness, good luck getting any of those relational awareness things to actually stick. Because if you do not have good self-awareness, then you will not believe what your partner is telling you about their experience in relationship with you, or you're going to be blind to how your behaviors and your attitudes are negatively impacting the relationship, which will make you assume that the relational issues are really them issues, and you won't make any progress. So in this video, I want to give you 6 behaviors to help you evaluate whether you may be lacking self-awareness. And then I'm going to give you 3 steps to grow in self-awareness, which I promise will help every relationship that you'll ever be in. That's today on Relation Shots. Welcome to Relation Shots. If this is your first time hanging out with us, welcome to the place to get practical relationship advice that actually works in your relationship. If you've not already done so, please click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss any upcoming videos. If you want a free guide to intimacy, you can use the link in the description area below. If you're looking for some ways to strengthen your relationship, we have an upcoming marriage masterclass that starts in January. And as always, our Altered Marriage membership is a great place to find community, resources, and tools to strengthen your relationship so you don't have to do it alone. You can get all that information in the description area below. Let's talk self-awareness. So here's the deal with self-awareness. There may be no more important thing in a relationship than you having self-awareness. When you don't, you'll assume everything in a relationship is a relationship issue or the other person issue, when oftentimes the problems that we're having in relationship are us issues, and a lack of self-awareness will prevent you from working on that. But don't just take my word for it. Other people believe this as well. So for my philosophers here, Socrates said, "To know thyself is the beginning of wisdom." For my Christians here, the Apostle Paul in Romans said, "Do not think more highly of yourself than you ought to, but think of yourself with sober judgment." To my street hustlers, Ice Cube said, "Check yourself, for you wreck yourself." I think we've got everybody covered now, and we're all in agreement that self-awareness is important. If you don't address self-awareness, it's going to cause problems in all of your relationships, but especially your closest one. That's your romantic relationship with your partner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some behaviors, 6 specific behaviors that probably will show up if you're lacking self-awareness. This is a tool to help you evaluate yourself. So here are 6 behaviors that will tend to show up when you lack self-awareness. Number 1, you focus on your partner's shortcomings. You're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about them. Number 2, you over-exaggerate your contributions to the relationship. You think you're better than you really are. Number 3, you have a hard time admitting mistakes. Number 4, you are overly critical of your partner. Number 5, you can be vague or unable to express your feelings. And number 6, you may be unaware of how you negatively impact your partner. You just don't see it. And here's the deal. I would tell you to evaluate yourself in these 6 areas, but if you lack self-awareness, it's not going to work anyway. So do this. Don't even ask your partner, because you won't believe them if you don't have self-awareness. Find a trusted friend who you really trust, who you believe, who you know can shoot you straight, and you'll take them at their word, and then ask them to evaluate you against these 6 behaviors, and you'll have a little better idea of where you stand. But either way, whether you scored yourself well on that or you scored yourself poorly on that, we can all grow and improve. And so I want to give you 3 steps, not streps, 3 steps to grow in your self-awareness in your relationships. Number 1 is slow down your life. Part of the reason we don't have self-awareness is because we're too busy to ever stop and become self-aware. We don't have any margin in our lives, so we never slow down long enough to even reevaluate or think about our behaviors or what we do. So if I tell you to slow down your life and you are feeling like there's pressure and demands that prevent you from doing it, I want you to stop and I want you to write down What pressures and demands would prevent you from slowing your life down a little bit more? Write them all down, and I want you to evaluate them and prioritize them from least important to most important. And once you have that list, I want you to take the bottom 2 to 3 things on the list of demands and pressures that prevent you from slowing down, and I want you to eliminate them. Put them on a not to do list. Get rid of them so you have just a little bit of margin in your life, because if you never slow down long enough, you will never be able to become self-aware. It requires some time to reflect, which leads me to step number 2, which is you need to observe yourself. Now, this may sound a little weird, but stay with me. Psychologists refer to something as the observing ego, which is just really your ability to step outside of yourself and look back in and view yourself. So your actions, your affect, which is your emotions, your defenses, your motivations. It's basically like empathy, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. But the whole goal of putting yourself outside of yourself in somebody else's shoes is to say, what would it feel like to be in a relationship with me so I can observe the things that I do in relationship? I had this moment today. We were recording some podcasts, and I do a podcast with a couple other people. It's called the Relation Shop. If you ever want to check that out on Spotify, Apple, all the other podcasts. We were talking about something, and one of the other co-hosts with me made some comment. We make fun of each other. So he was talking about me and said, man, imagine being married to Eric, because I love to rip on him in the podcast, and we go back and forth. He says, imagine being married to Eric. You wouldn't want to say anything, because later he'd bring that up and hit you. Here's the reality. He's absolutely right. If I step out of myself and put myself in my wife's shoes, it does not always feel like a safe environment in marriage with me, because she doesn't know if she shares something with me, I may turn that into the butt of a joke later. And since she doesn't feel safe, she's probably not going to want to share things with her. And then I may come to her and go, you never talk to me, man. What's wrong with the relationship? If I don't have an observing ego where I can step outside and observe, you know what it must feel like to be with a guy who will make fun of you at any moment? It must suck. And you know what? I need to work on that, and I need to create a safe environment if I really desire for my wife to be more open and honest and vulnerable with me. So you have to be willing to step outside of yourself and observe yourself if you have any hope of developing and growing more in your self-awareness. And number 3, you have to define your core values. Here's the reality. A lot of times we don't even know what we value. And if we don't know what we value, we won't understand what we are or are not prioritizing. I talk to lots of couples, and it's funny when you talk to couples sometimes and you maybe ask the wife, hey, where do you think you are on your husband's priority list? And she may go, man, I'm like 5 or 6. And the husband's going, what are you talking about? You're my number 1 priority. And he is completely unaware that she feels like she's not a priority because he's never taken the time to look at what are your core values. And if you don't know what your core values are, your core values always affect your calendar and your checkbook. Where are you spending your time and where are you spending your money? And that's why sometimes a husband who works a ton because a core value is working in order to make money, to provide for the family, and all that's good. But you can't turn around and think your wife will feel like a priority when you work 80 hours a week. Does that make sense? Well, I'm doing it for her. I understand that. But she also needs some other stuff for you that you're not prioritizing. So if you do not know what your core values are, you need to sit down, look at your calendar, look at your bank account, see where you're spending your time and your money, and you'll help develop a list of what right now are your core values. And if you want to prioritize your relationship, you may have to make some adjustments to your calendar. You may have to make some adjustments to where you spend money. If you're spending thousands of dollars every year on a hobby, hunting, boating, other stuff that does not involve your spouse, they may not feel like they're a priority to you. And if you say they are a priority, you may need to make some adjustments there. So that is how you begin to grow in self-awareness just a little bit. Make a little more time for yourself. Slow down, observe yourself, and then check your core values. So I've given you 6 behaviors to evaluate yourself against. I've given you 3 steps to begin to grow in self-awareness. So now you have no excuse not to become more self-aware. And I promise you, if you become more self-aware, your relationships will get better. And the good news is, you are the only person you'll ever be in control of. So you can spend a lot of relational energy on a relationship. You can spend a lot of individual energy trying to change your spouse. But if you will just focus on self-awareness and grow your self-awareness, I promise you, every relationship in your life will get better. Drop a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We can chat a little bit about it. Again, if you need an environment to strengthen your marriage, look at our marriage membership. Our upcoming marriage masterclass. It starts in the middle of January 2022. You can sign up for that now as well to make sure you reserve a spot. And until next time, I'll see you right back here on Relation Shots.